over a period of 20 days, I live streamed every time I sat down to write on that novel. Novel's not finished, but the first 50,000 words were on stream. This article appears on LitReactor. So if you go to litreactor.com, you can see this and all sorts of great articles from a number of really good authors and columnists and people that are in the industry. So it's available there. All right. So getting right to it, 10 things I learned live streaming the writing of my 50K word NaNoWriMo novel. It's as crazy as it sounds. On its own, NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, is enough of a challenge for authors, the end game, to create a 50,000 word novel in a month. I decided to write my 50,000 words over the course of 20 days, all while streaming on Twitch. If you're quick, you can see the videos on my Twitch channel before they disappear after 60 days. I have Gaming Prime, formerly Twitch Prime, available as a bonus with Amazon Prime. And 60-day storage of videos is one of the perks. If you're not quick, you can go to my YouTube channel, Captain 3 Kidneys, to see the edited videos stored there forever under my NaNoWriMo list. It's a different way to write when people are popping in and out of the stream to watch over your shoulder. Prior to November, I had live streamed writing a short story from beginning to end in one Twitch session, and I've done that a few times. Actually, the picture that they pulled here looks like it's from the story Dirty Angels that I wrote just the other day, so they must have just finished preparing this yesterday. Kind of a interesting picture they got going there. It's different when you try to write with people popping in and out. Prior to November, I had live streamed the short story sessions on Twitch. Creating a whole novel or the first 50,000 words of one in front of an audience is an alien concept, at odds with how writing normally works. It's not for everyone. It's not for most people, or even for most types of writing. There were a number of things I learned from writing this way for 20 straight days. If you're crazy enough to even consider something like this, my self-reflections might be helpful. If you're wise enough to be wary of the idea of live streaming as an author, then this list may help inform your choice. At the very least, it can serve as a curious look into one author behaving oddly. People who would watch this on Twitch might not find it as strange of a concept. All right, number one, the thing that I learned or observed while live stream writing, I'm less likely to take breaks. I have the option. I have a neatly branded card I can put up that says "Be right back," and anytime I need a break. I never use it. If I were writing in solitude with no one watching but me, but God or the universe, I'd take breaks all the time. From the moment I started streaming each day, I'd just keep going until I reached my word count goal. Updated my word count on the Nano site live. Checked how my friends were doing, the ones who gave me permission to look at their Nano pages on video, and said I'd see everyone again tomorrow. Other writing I did that day, I took breaks. Something about live streaming was like being on stage. The show had to go on, I guess. Now, I have noticed that a lot of times I will write straight through on something, so especially if a project is challenging or it's giving me trouble, a lot of times I catch myself just writing until I get to the point I would have stopped and haven't taken a break at all with that. I did that today with a ghostwriting project that I was working on. All right. Number two, I'm less likely to go ahead of pace. Going ahead of my minimum pace is one of my favorite achievements as a writer. If I need to write 1,000 words a day to get a book to the publisher on time, and I write 2,500 words one day, I feel like I conquered the world. For a 20-day pace in Nano, I needed to write 2,500 words a day. That's not a difficult pace for me over a short period of time. A couple times I went 3,000 words or more, but I never doubled up. And most days I got just past my minimum and came to a stopping point. There was a great sense of relief in reaching my goal and signing off. Writing for NaNoWriMo on Twitch was kind of a challenge because I was, again, having to keep a novel moving and that sort of thing. So it was kind of a relief at times when I was like, okay, I've made my word count. I can go ahead and stop and write in private again. All right. Number three, I didn't skip days. I had 2 doctor's appointments during the 20-day period. The one between day 19 and 20 was a sleep study. I had to spend the night hooked to a breathing machine and wires. I slept badly. My head hurt. They sent me home at 5 in the morning. Normally, I would have skipped both those days of writing and just finished up on days 21 and 22. Because I was streaming, I streamed early on the 19th and edited the video before going to the sleep clinic. On the 20th, I felt terrible all day and finally sat down that evening to crawl past 50,000 words for the win. Maybe people would have noticed I skipped days. Maybe they wouldn't have, but I set a schedule and I stuck with it. That sleep study was a waste of time. They never figured out what was wrong, and they've referred me on to a bigger clinic to try to see if they can fix me. The pull quote, which comes from the end of the article, says, "Surviving as an author has largely been defined by those who were able to adapt and those who failed to see the need." All right, looking at number 4. Some of you reading this are ahead of me on this one. Okay, number 4 is, I found it fascinating what fascinates people. You're wondering why anyone would want to watch someone write. Now, of course, on Twitch, people understand the idea of kind of watching in. Even though it's primarily about video games, there's a lot of other activities that go on, so people are used to kind of watching and participating in that way, and in a way that other people reading this article may not understand. The entire time I streamed during November, I gained followers and had more and more interactions during the streams. People encouraged me and rooted for me in the chat. People asked questions about process, and I paused from the writing to answer. 2 times I forgot to switch my stream view to where my Word doc was showing for an hour and a half, 2 different days. Anyone watching was just looking at my face as I typed, and people still watched. It probably helped that I was reading the story out loud as I went, but it still was kind of strange that I forgot to show my screen the way I'm doing now. All right, number 5, I don't write my goriest stories while streaming. I am pretty selective about it. Behind me on the wall, I have my dry erase board, and lots of little story ideas are kind of written down in the bottom right hand corner. Other projects that I have going are listed in their spots. It makes sense to me. It'll look like the scrollings of a madman to anyone else. But I pick out stories that I'm going to write either on my own or on Twitch. When I'm picking a story for Twitch, I make sure it's not something that's going to be extreme horror, not something that's going to be terribly offensive to anyone that happened to drop in. I do write those stories, but they tend to be the ones that I'm writing on my own in private now. So my 2 writing styles are very different now. What I write on stream has a certain feel, almost like a certain voice to it, and then what I write on my own almost has like a different voice. So I'm getting, whereas all that stuff used to blend in the past, I'm kind of taking 2 different paths with how I write now, and I'm kind of happy with the results, actually. All right, so looking at number 5, I'm selective about the type of stories I stream. Twitch has a rule against excessive gore, but that is primarily about visuals. I could probably get away with it in prose, but I save my extreme horror for writing in private anyway. Even as I wrote scenes in the Nano novel where I'd normally describe the damage of a gunshot in visceral, self-indulgent detail, I rethought my approach while streaming. I was aware of the audience in an immediate way. I also took a beat and thought, is it more important to describe the physical damage or the emotional terror of the character in this scene? In another situation, I would have dumped the emotion for the splatter without a second thought. You can have both splatter and emotion too, but I think the spirit of the novel in this case was served better by the choice to veer away from the viscera. Alright, so it did make me rethink how I wrote a little bit as I was doing it. Number 6, it was more inspiring and motivating to people than I expected. To me, this was originally just sort of a gimmick. I'm trying to explore Twitch as an author platform and as a full-time writer, trying to survive while living my dream. I'm striving to build Twitch into another supplementary source of income. As I updated my word count status, I looked through the author buddies of mine who let me include their progress on the air. I edited the full video, and I edited a clip of just the word count checks from the end. The clips meant more to people than I expected. I talked about the books I liked from them. I cheered the ones who were ahead. I encouraged the ones who were behind. On the stream and from the clips, I had multiple people say it made them feel a part of something. I got messages saying some authors kept going instead of quitting because of what I said. We can all use encouragement, I suppose. Who knows? Maybe it was the background music that made a difference. It did mean a lot to me that some people did mention that it meant something to them to either be mentioned in the video or to hear some encouragement when they were having trouble. All right, number 7, I started later than I normally would. Any other year, talking about NaNoWriMo, I'd sit down and bang out my word minimum first thing in the morning and move on with my day. Now I needed to be showered and groomed. I had to be sure I didn't wear the same shirt 2 or 3 days in a row. I had to be sure the kids didn't need anything before I started. I had to be sure the sun wasn't shining on the camera lens, and that I had the scenes set up correctly. Sometimes I had to gear myself up mentally to be on for the stream. Late starts became typical. All right, number 8. I catch myself speaking out loud as I'm writing even when I'm not on stream. The one thing I believe that differentiates me from other writers on the platform, aside from my sex appeal, of course, is that I can read the story out loud as I'm typing it, so it isn't a silent stream during the writing process. Obviously, I have no problem with writers who do it that way, and they're very successful. They're putting out good work and doing writing sprints and things like that. But the way I was doing it, of course, is that as I'm typing the story, I'm speaking the story out loud as I'm making it up. So it makes it a little bit different. I don't know that I've seen anyone else doing that. It's a big platform, so it's possible that I'm going to run across somebody. I'm always looking for new writers on the platform anyway. All right, since I've been streaming the writing of my Nano novel, I caught myself speaking the words I'm typing when I'm off camera as well. This will just add to the evidence that I am crazy. I don't do it all the time, but I do catch myself doing that. Number 9, audience awareness pushes me to write better. I try to be brave with my first draft. I'm generally not afraid to make mistakes while getting a story out on the page. I'm not afraid of the inevitable heavy edits after my first draft. I believe I was still going for that fearless stance while streaming. Not to shine my own crown too much, but I imagine a lot of writers would be frozen by the reality of people watching and reading along as they wrote. Being aware of those eyes didn't freeze me, but it gave me a constant reminder to not let the story get boring. As I went live and prepared to type the first line of a new chapter, I was immediately pushed to go with something bold instead of benign. You can fix most anything in editing, but understanding how the reader will experience the flow, action, pacing, character exchanges, and tone in real time adds a certain positive pressure to deliver on the story. Number 10, this is not ideal for all forms of writing. There are a lot of creative wordsmiths doing interesting things on Twitch. It took me a lot of hunting around to find them among the many gamers so I could follow and learn from them. You can do great things live, and it has potential to punch up the process. It isn't ideal for gore, extreme horror, or erotica. While it lends itself to experimentation, it probably does not reward the most controversial work or subjects. I'm sure it runs afoul of reprint rules, so any story I write on Twitch, I'll need to inform potential publishers of its history if I'm not self-publishing. If you were struggling with a piece, that may be something you don't want seen by the world, though the world sure is fascinated by process. The moments I struggled to find the right word, debated the next turn in the story, or scolded myself out loud over a section that I didn't write well enough, those were the times people wanted to know more. This is new territory for authors, but generally with the door closed and alone with your thoughts is still the ideal condition for most authors and most stories. Finishing off, I'm excited about what I'm doing with this platform, how I'm growing it, and how people are responding. I like the content I'm producing and the pieces it gives me to share on other platforms as I redefine my brand. I'm happy to be in on a thing like Twitch for authors when it is still in the early stages of exploration. I'm proud of the skills I'm developing and believe the new toolbox will serve me well no matter what happens in the future. I'm hopeful more authors will take a chance on it and we'll learn new things from each other. It's not for everyone, but surviving as an author and creator for many decades now has largely been defined by those who were able to adapt and those who failed to see the need. 10 things I learned while live streaming on Twitch. That article and many other great articles can be found on LitReactor.com. They have new articles almost every single day, and they're always really great.